Welcome to the deep dive. We've got a quite a fascinating stack of sources here, all provided by you, actually. They give us a pretty unique lens on the potential energies, maybe some challenges too, for May 23rd.
hmm
So our mission today is to really unpack what this mix we've got astrology, tarot, and honestly, a very peculiar story, what it's all telling us.
Yeah, think of them almost like different maps of the same day ahead.
Yeah.
We're going to try and pull out the key insights from each one.
And see how they layer together.
Exactly, see how they connect, or maybe where they create a bit of tension.
Absolutely. And as we were looking through them earlier, a really potent theme started to emerge, didn't it? This powerful, sometimes really tricky relationship between our thoughts, like how we perceive things.
Yeah, and what we actually experience as reality.
Yeah, it feels like the thread running through everything today. Okay, so let's dive into this stack you've given us. Where do we start?
Well, let's kick off with the astrology, the celestial picture for May 23rd. What jumps out first is this dominant energy. It feels very raw, impulsive.
Instinctual?
Yeah, instinctual, quick reflexes. There's even a touch of like healthy competition in the air, according to the source.
I definitely got that sense of urgency from it, like a real push. Come on, it's time to move feeling. It feels like a green light for trying something genuinely new, maybe.
Definitely. Good time for bold moves, the source says. Direct gestures, maybe even unexpected ones.
So the astrology seems to be saying, lean into spontaneity, follow your bliss, maybe.
Follow where your energy genuinely wants to go, yeah. And what's interesting is how it frames this energy. It's described as highly motivating.
Yeah.
Like, it gives you the drive to break out of old habits.
The ones you're stuck in.
Right, or to actively chase those goals, start exciting projects, even fight for something you're really passionate about.
Hmm.
Our source even notes the potential for bold declarations. Could be work, could be love.
Okay, so a lot of fire, a lot of forward momentum. But, energy that strong usually comes with a bit of a warning label, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. And here it is. The caution is to be mindful of tempers, yours and, well, everyone else's.
Ah.
And to really try and think before acting on those really strong impulses. The trick, it seems, is blending that assertiveness,
The boldness.
the boldness, yeah, with some grace,
Yeah.
and finding a way to be independent while still being able to compromise when you need to.
Okay, so it's about directing the energy skillfully, not just letting it run wild.
Yeah.
Did the source mention any specific times or aspects during the day?
Yes, it points to a midday aspect. It's an Aries moon trine Mars.
That's harmonious. Right?
Yeah, good flow. So you've got the Aries moon energy already direct, emotional flowing really smoothly with Mars, which is all about drive and action. So this really emphasizes themes like bravery, pioneering spirit,
Taking the lead.
taking initiative, exactly, big midday boost for that core energy.
Got it.
And then later in the afternoon, that same Aries moon forms a conjunction with Venus,
Okay, conjunction is more of a blend.
right? A merging of energy. So that active direct Aries moon stuff blends with Venus, planet of pleasure, charm, companionship.
Ah, so maybe it softens things a bit later on?
Yeah, the energy might shift slightly, maybe smooths out some of that earlier intensity, brings in more focus on connection, enjoyment.
Okay, interesting. So we have this picture, potent, action-packed energy with these different flavors during the day. Now, let's bring in the second source you sent, the Daily TarotScope.
Right. So for May 23rd, the card that came up is the Knight of Swords reversed.
Ooh, Knight of Swords,
Yeah.
but reversed. Upside down. That feels significant right away. He's usually charging forward, isn't he?
He is, and reversing him definitely flips the script. According to this tarot source, the key things to think about with the Knight of Swords reversed are, well, scattered thoughts, maybe over-idealism.
Getting caught up in illusions.
Exactly, caught in illusions rather than clear, actionable visions, things that aren't quite grounded.
Wow, okay. That feels like almost the exact opposite of the astrology's go for it vibe. The tarot seems to immediately ask, where are you aiming all that energy?
It really does. And the source puts a critical question right out there for you, the listener.
Yeah.
Are we seeing things as they truly are or as we wish them to be? Yeah. This card suggests there's a real chance our perspective might be, clouding our judgment, leading us down the wrong path, maybe.
So what are the risks then if we're operating from that reverse night space? What could go wrong?
Well, the tarot source warns about getting so wrapped up in, like, future possibilities or theories, just intellectual stuff.
Head in the clouds.
Totally. Head in the clouds, losing touch with the present moment, the practical reality, and the consequences. Miscommunication, because your thoughts aren't landing clearly. Impractical ideas you can't actually do anything with.
Right.
And maybe making decisions without that grounded wisdom, without thinking through the real world stuff.
It's like having this brilliant concept, maybe, but completely missing the practical steps to get there, or ignoring the potential roadblocks.
Exactly. And there's a specific warning in the source, too. Don't ignore your gut feeling, your intuition.
Ah.
Don't brush it aside in favor of just overanalyzing everything or getting swept away by these ambitions that sound great but aren't actually realistic.
It mentions chasing mental rabbit holes, too, right? Or
Mm.
missing important details because you're just too far up in your head.
Yes, precisely. Missing what's right in front of you because, as the source puts it, your head is too
Yeah.
far in the clouds.
Okay, so if we feel that scattered, maybe overly idealistic energy pulling at us, what does the tarot say to do? What's the practical advice here?
Well, the advice is actually pretty pragmatic, which is kind of funny for a card about being ungrounded.
Huh. Yeah.
It says, actively check yourself. Where might your ideas be too abstract, too idealistic? And then get things out of your head. Write them down.
Make lists.
Make practical lists, yeah. And maybe seek advice from someone you know who's really level-headed, someone pragmatic.
Get a reality check from someone else.
Get a real-world sounding board, exactly. And if misunderstandings happen or if things just feel unclear,
Slow down.
slow down, clarify. Don't let that impulsive, restless energy the astrology mentioned make your words or your decisions hasty or confusing or potentially misleading.
Okay. Okay, so now we're really starting to see the dynamic here, the interplay. Astrology gives us this powerful initiating energy, go, break free, start things, be bold,
Big engine.
big engine. And then the tarot slams on the brakes a bit, or at least flashes a big yellow warning light. Be incredibly careful where you point that engine.
Right, because there's this strong potential for getting lost in illusion or just operating from a place that's totally impractical, totally ungrounded.
The tension there is really clear. You've got all this power to move, but the Knight reversed warns that maybe the thing you're trying to move isn't really there.
Or you're trying to move it with, like, a theoretical lever that doesn't actually exist in the real world.
Yeah. It just highlights how crucial grounded awareness is, even when you feel that surge of bold energy.
Absolutely. You need both.
So, how might this combination, this bold but potentially ungrounded energy, how might that actually look? How could it play out? Which I think brings us perfectly to our third source today, this really fascinating, honestly, quite unsettling story called The Visionary's Echo.
Yes. This feels like it takes those themes and puts them into a narrative.
Definitely. So it introduces us to this character, Elias Mercier,
Mm-hmm.
known in some circles as the Visionary.
And the description paints him as someone with this incredibly quick mind, just full of ideas, but he lives this really reclusive life, just him and his books and scrolls in this crumbling old Victorian house.
You immediately get this sense of, like, brilliant maybe, but maybe cut off, and isolated intellect.
Mm-hmm. And then you have Marin Cross, the journalist who's sent to profile him. And right from the moment she arrives, the story builds this sense of unease in her.
Like the air is thick, something's not right.
Exactly. Something's unspoken, maybe about to break. And when she gets to the house, the weirdness just starts piling up. Front door's already open.
Yeah.
Inside, it's not just messy. There are papers arranged in these deliberate spiraling patterns, notes in crimson ink making these, like, unsettling circles.
Creepy. And then there's that phrase, found everywhere, right? At the heart of it all.
We see what we choose to see. It's repeated over and over.
And the story uses some really striking imagery to illustrate that theme, doesn't it? Like the map.
Oh, yeah, the map. Marin finds this map of the local town, Black Veil, but it has these impossible landmarks drawn onto it. Places like the Whispering Tree, the Shadow Bridge.
The house with no door.
Right. Places that clearly only exist in Elias's mind, but they're layered right over the real map.
A literal picture of seeing something that isn't physically there, and then the covered mirrors, the clocks running backward. It's like he's deliberately distorting or rejecting normal reality.
Turning away from it, yeah. She eventually finds his study, which is just filled with scrolls.
Yeah.
And the source specifically points out the scroll dated for today, May 23rd.
And the message on it. It's chilling how directly it connects back to the tarot we were just talking about.
Right. It says, the night falters. Thought turns in on itself. Illusion births consequence.
Wow. An explicit link from the story right back to the Knight of Swords reverse and what it warns about. And
Yeah.
then she finds Elias.
Yeah. He's there in his armchair, eyes open, but vacant. really pale. And when he speaks, it's just a whisper. He talks about finding the place where thought and reality bleed together.
Oof.
And he says he thought he could shape that place, but instead it shaped him.
Oh, wow. And right there beside him, face down, there's a tarot card.
The story identifies it as the Knight of Swords reversed.
Yeah.
Or maybe Knight of Scrolls reversed, connecting to a study.
And the source mentions a detail on that card in the story.
It does. It says the illustration on the card found there shows a figure staring into a mirror, but the reflection is visibly distorted.
Another really powerful image of that warped perception theme.
Absolutely. And then Elias's final words. They feel like the absolute core of the story's message, and they echo that phrase found everywhere, but add a twist.
He says, "He warned me. We choose what we see."
But we see what chooses us.
Chilling.
Ah.
Just chilling. And that's where the story really goes off the rails, doesn't it? The climax.
It gets truly unsettling. The room itself starts distorting, the door vanishes, Marin's trapped. And she hears this voice sounds like her own, repeating that message from the scroll. Illusion births consequence.
Ugh. And the ending, the resolution, it's so ambiguous, so disturbing, it just blurs the lines completely.
Yeah, the next morning, the house is gone. Locals say it burned down years ago.
No record of Elias, no record of Marin, like they never existed.
All that's left is this single piece of parchment floating in the woods nearby with that original phrase.
Yeah.
We see what we choose to see.
Wow. Okay, so let's step back now and try to pull all three of these threads together. That story. It feels like a really potent, maybe cautionary, maybe even extreme illustration of what happens when you mix that astrological energy
That bold, visionary impulse.
with the tarot's warning about getting lost in illusion if it goes completely unchecked.
Right. You have Elias, this intense intellectual energy, maybe like that Aries drive, but it's totally untethered from reality. He gets lost in his own mental creations, his illusion.
And they lead to real, tangible, and frankly terrifying consequences in the story.
It takes that potential for bold, impulsive thinking from the stars and then shows the possible dark side if, like the Knight of Swords reversed warns, that thinking isn't grounded, if it's based on a distorted view of what's real.
And those central phrases the story keeps coming back to, we see what we choose to see. And then Elias's final, more complex version, we choose what we see, but we see what chooses us.
They just resonate so deeply with that Knight of Swords reverse theme, don't they? That
Yeah.
distorted perception, that blurry line where our inner thoughts meet or maybe even create outer reality.
It really feels like the collective message from all these sources woven together is pretty clear for the day. There's energy available, real power for bold moves, innovative thinking.
Totally.
But the critical piece, the absolute key, is making sure your vision, your perspective is firmly rooted, grounded in reality, not wandering off into self-created illusions.
So taking all this, what does it mean for you listening right now, going about your day? Well, the sources seem to be inviting you to pause, to consider where might you feel that impulsive, initiating energy today, that urge to leap?
And just as importantly, where might your thoughts, your ideas be drifting? Are they getting a bit too idealistic, maybe? A bit abstract or impractical?
Are you maybe chasing one of those mental rabbit holes the tarot warned about? Are your brilliant ideas perhaps a bit too far removed from what's actually possible right now?
And remember that practical advice from the tarot. That's your toolkit here. Literally write things down. Get them out of your head onto paper to ground them.
Make those lists. Maybe reach out to that pragmatic friend, the one who always gives you the straight scoop. Get that outside perspective.
Yeah, and if communication feels weird or intentions seem murky, the advice is clear. Slow down, clarify. Don't just push forward impulsively like the astrology might tempt you to.
Exactly. These sources aren't just, predicting stuff. They're offering tools for navigating the day. They're framing it as this chance to use that powerful energy productively, intentionally.
While staying really aware, really grounded in what's actually real. It's such a fascinating intersection, isn't it? This potential for intense, pioneering forward movement balanced right against this stark warning about the dangers of getting lost. Lost in your own head, lost in illusion.
We've looked at the dynamic energy from the astrology, the critical caution from the tarot.
And seen how that weird, unsettling story can bring these abstract ideas into really sharp, maybe uncomfortable focus.
We started off talking about how our thoughts and perceptions shape our reality. But Elias Mercier's final words in that story, we see what chooses us.
Yeah.
And the way reality itself seemed to warp at the end. That adds a whole other layer, doesn't it? A really complex one.
We choose what we see, but we see what chooses us, if that's even partly true. And if what we see, our perception, can shape us so profoundly, Where does our choice, our agency, truly begin and end?
And what does it really mean to ground our boldest thoughts, that pioneering spirit, in a reality
Well,
that,
what?
well, according to the story at least, might itself be more shifting, more influenced by our perception than we usually think?
Yeah, it definitely leaves you with a lot to chew on.